Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and thank you for stopping by. This video is one of those short and sweet videos that shows the technique part of the card only. So I made these textured lace cards using new stencils from Stencils Stamp, and I loved how they turned out. So I thought it would be a good idea to film a quick video, a quick how-to video, and show you how I made these cards. So these are the new stencils from Stencils Stamp, and they are incredibly detailed. Very beautiful and just really, truly gorgeous. They reminded me of lace, of beautiful white lace on bare skin, and this is actually what inspired these cards. So this one is a star medallion. I love this one the most, and I'll use it to show you this technique. So I'm working on craft cardstock today to get that gorgeous white on bare skin look. The first thing I did is dry embossed my craft panel in my die cutting machine using the stencil. You do not have to do this. I'm really not sure if it adds anything to the overall look, maybe just a tad bit more dimension, but I'm not sure it's noticeable enough to go through the trouble of doing it. I did it anyways, simply to show you that you can also dry emboss with these for a beautiful textured look. So it's just another technique to try. Make sure to center your panel on the stencil or offset it if you're going for an offset look, and use a dry embossing sandwich in your die cutting machine. So I had my stencil, my paper, 10 embossing mat, a shim, this is just a piece of printer paper folded in half, and blue embossing plate. I'm using Platinum 6 die cutting machine here. If you have a different machine, the embossing sandwich will be different, so check your machine's instructions or manual. And here's this gorgeous result. You have texture on both sides of your paper, and this reminds me of some expensive floor tile you can find abroad. Very beautiful. I might actually go ahead and emboss a bunch of these using different colors of cardstock and see how I can use them later. Next, I'm going to realign my stencil on the paper, and we'll tape it in place using washi tape. Usually I add way more tape to make sure it's not going to move, my paper is not going to move, and my stencil is not going to move, and I also tape the paper. But because I have that dry embossing, I think it sort of helps to hold the stencil in place. And also I will be using my hand to hold it in place, so I'm not really worried about the stencil moving. The next step is to add texture or embossing paste through the stencil onto the paper. I have a palette knife here, and this is just a cheap plastic knife. For my previous examples, I was using this embossing paste from Ranger, but I'm all out. So for this video, I'll use texture paste instead. Not much of a difference. The texture paste is a little bit thicker, so a bit more difficult to apply. But other than that, not much of a difference between these two products for this technique. If you have other kinds of paste in your stash, try and see if they will work. So you want to cover the entire surface of your paper with this paste. You can do partial coverage if you want, and in that case, the dry embossing would actually look really nice because it would actually show. Now that I'm doing a voiceover for this video, I wish I had done that. I wish I had thought of that when I was actually making the card. Oh well, maybe next time then. So next you want to carefully remove the stencil and wash it, and be sure to wash the palette knife also so you can use these two products again and again. So this already looks very beautiful as is, but I'm going to add some embossing powder on top to make it even prettier. So here I have white satin pearl embossing powder from Hero Arts. This one has a very beautiful pearlescent shine to it, and I'm going to cover the entire surface of my paper with this powder. Shake off the excess and set aside. Ideally, you will now need to wait for the paste to dry. It might take an hour, it might take a few hours depending on how thick you applied it, but I didn't have the patience to do that, so I didn't wait, and in the end, it wasn't the end of the world, it still turned out really nice. So here is a card with this background where embossing paste has been melted, and you can see that it has that gorgeous shimmer to it. Compared to the background we just did, the powder hasn't been melted yet, so therefore there's no shine. I'm using my heat tool to carefully heat the panel and melt the powder. The texture paste will bubble up from the heat, and you'll see it do that on my panel if it's not dry. So if you don't want your texture paste doing that, be sure to let the paste dry first and heat set later. But like I said, I didn't mind it bubbling up. It actually added additional dimension to my background, and I love that. So the background is done at this point. I love how it turned out. Here is this background compared to the other one where the paste didn't bubble up as much. You can clearly see the difference, but if you ask me, both of these look stunning. Now, to complete these cards, I used the Sketch Ranunculus stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I used sentiments from here, and I also used new Big Perfect Shape stamp and coordinating die to stamp and die cut the hearts for my cards. So this is it for today. I hope you have found this video to be useful and inspirational. You can find more photos on my blog. I have a link to my blog below in the video description. You can also find links to Simon Says Stamp stencils and all the other products I use to create these cards on my blog and below the video. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Bye!